Hey everyone, my name is Eric Hopkins, aka JEL. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome to this week's AEW Weekly Recap. So, without further ado, we got like 6 hours of wrestling to get into here, so I'm going to kind of go through this as quickly as possible. So let's get into it without any further ado. Last week, AEW was reported to have signed Camille from NWA. It was reported by Fightful Select that she will be joining the AEW roster. Tony Khan was asked about it, obviously, but he said he was playing a little coy here. He said, "I think Camille is a great wrestler. We followed her very closely. She's worked with a lot of the top AEW talent. He wasn't wanting to fully commit to the fact that they did sign her. I think he wants to keep it a little bit of a secret, a little bit of a surprise. But he did this sort of same thing before with Mercedes Moné. So I think it's all but confirmed that she will be joining the AEW women's division. So that's a good signing for them. I think she's very talented. We'll see what she can do with the ladies on that roster. AEW and WWE have both been doing a pretty good job of expanding their women's roster as of late, and I think they're going to be doing a lot of focus on it going forward, as they should. The women should be represented very well, and I can't wait to see what AEW does with Camille. AEW Collision opened up on Saturday with Swerve Strickland. Of course, AEW got a lot of flack last week for Swerve not hosting a big promo segment on Dynamite last week after he won his AEW World Championship. He obviously had a match, but at the same time, apparently AEW might have had a plan. A lot of people say it was a reaction to the fact that they got the criticism they did, but it sounds like Tony Khan had a plan, in my opinion. Obviously, he knew the NBA playoffs was going to be going on before Collision this last Saturday, so with the lead-in from the game and things like that, he was going to put Swerve Strickland at the open of the show to do his promo there, and obviously it did pretty well because Collision did 621,000 viewers with a .21 rating in the key 18 to 49 demo. Also, the Swerve Claudio promo did a .49 in the demo, so very good in the demographics there for sure. So putting Swerve on as their world champion to cut his first major promo after winning the title on Collision worked out for them. So good job on AEW. So again, it's just one of those instances where it's like, as a fan, sometimes just wait and see what the company does. You may not exactly be thrilled with what happens on that given night, but sometimes they have a plan of where it's going forward. So a lot of times with wrestling, it's best to just wait and see. But I understand that a lot of times we've been burned over that over the last few years, especially in the Vince McMahon era in WWE. But not all companies run that way. So it's just best to sometimes just wait and see what they got up their sleeve. Obviously, Swerve basically come out, and this was not the best promo I've seen Swerve ever cut, but I thought he cut a better one on Dynamite this week. But he basically, just declares this is the Dynasty era, and he issued an open challenge for his AEW World Championship on Collision because Swerve is talking about how he wants to be a fighting champion and not somebody who just goes away all the time. And last week, I believe he had 3 matches in a span of 1 week, so that's good to see from the world champion. Of course, the open challenge was answered by Claudio Castagnoli. Very fun to see this. Claudio, I think, again, is very underrated. Glad to see he got the Ring of Honor World Championship at one point, but I'd love to see him push to the moon again. And it sounds like they could be possibly setting up a little bit of a push for him here after Collision this week. Yeah, definitely good to see this here and a good opening segment for Collision on Saturday. Lots of great wrestling on Collision this last week. Obviously, the Bang Bang Gang versus Top Flight was a lot of fun. The Bang Bang Gang gets the win there. We had Ray Phoenix returning to AEW after injury, and he was wrestling the Beast Mortos. Another underrated match. A lot of good stuff in this match from the Luchadors, for sure. Yeah, definitely hoping to see more of the Beast Mortos as well. Ray Phoenix, just good to see him back, all things considered. I know it's been a long time for him. We also got the return of Roosh as well. I thought Roosh looked great in his return match. It's a bit of a squash, but at the same time, Roosh is a guy who should be on your television every single week. And it sounds like he's going to be getting a big push as well, as he cut a promo basically talking about how he's going to be taking names, so to speak, in AEW. So good to see both those guys back. I think it's a big coup for AEW to get some guys back from injury because they've got a long list of wrestlers right now who are out with injuries and whatnot. But hopefully once we start getting some of them back, as talented as the roster is, we've obviously got a deep roster in AEW, which is why AEW is actually putting on good shows still. If they had all these talents hurt with no depth behind them, AEW would be in big trouble right now. But that's one of the reasons why Tony Khan signed all these guys. He took a lot of flack for signing too many people to his roster, but this is where it's paying off when you do get injuries of this ordeal. Yeah, I think it's a good thing to see, and I can't wait to see where some of these guys go once they come back from injury. So good to see these two guys back. We had a women's match on Collision between the AEW Women's World Champion Timeless Tony Storm and Anna Jay. Both these women worked their butts off. Anna Jay is vastly improved, and I think she's going to be great for the women's division moving forward. But Tony Storm gets the victory here. But Anna Jay looked like she possibly could have won with the Queen's Slayer at the end of the matchup, but Tony Storm does get the victory here. So again, just kind of building up the women's division here. I thought Anna Jay looked great in a loss. She's been looking great a lot lately, especially on Rampage and some of those other shows. So yeah, it's definitely good to see these two ladies here. Absolutely great match. Great wrestling in general on Collision this week. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. We got to see the debut of the Grizzled Young Veterans, formerly from NXT, debuting here on AEW Dynamite. As far as I can tell, they have not signed with AEW just yet. But after this match, if Tony Khan does not sign them, he's insane because these guys work their butts off with the Acclaimed. The Acclaimed obviously get the win here because, again, as I said, GYV not being signed just yet. It makes sense for the Acclaimed to go over. But these guys had a great match on Collision. Absolutely fun to watch. But yeah, definitely sign them and push the Grizzled Young Veterans immediately. So yeah, I think this tag team is absolutely great, and if AEW doesn't sign them, I think they're a little crazy. But we'll see what they do. Got to get them while you can, otherwise Hunter's going to scoop them up back in WWE. So definitely go get them as soon as you can, TK. It was reported on AEW Collision that Tony Khan has not been cleared medically to travel, so he will not be at the AEW shows moving forward, at least in storyline. I don't know if he'll actually still be there, but it sounds like the Young Bucks are going to be taking over. We'll get into that more once we get into AEW Dynamite this week, but for the foreseeable future, at least in storyline, it appears that the Young Bucks are going to be the ones who are going to be running the shows here on television. The main event between Swerve and Claudio Castagnoli was absolutely great. Like I said, these two guys could go, and obviously Claudio takes the loss here and Swerve's, I believe, first major title defense. Yeah, because the match on Dynamite last week was an eliminator match. This was his first title defense. So Claudio Castagnoli, again, looked great in a loss. And after the show, he cut a promo about how losing and losing and losing, that's how you learn. And he's going to get better. So, and he did get a win on Dynamite this week against Brian Cage. So, yeah, it makes all the sense in the world that they're going to be pushing Claudio Castagnoli as they should. He's a great in ring competitor. And he obviously has banger after banger after banger, to quote Sheamus. Yeah, I think it's going to be great for Sheamus's old tag team partner, Claudio, to continue to rise up the ranks here in AEW. On Rampage last week, we also obviously had a tag team match with Shibata and Daniel Garcia versus Shane Taylor Promotions. A lot of fun to see these guys in the ring together. Definitely a fun watch. And if you're not watching Rampage, obviously, I understand it's not as important as some other shows, but I think Rampage has been a lot of fun lately, and I think it's worth checking out if you've not done so. We also had Thunder Rosa versus Deonna Purrazzo. Thunder Rosa gets the win here, obviously, and that feud is not over. It sounds like these two ladies are going to be going at it even more. So, yeah, definitely more fun in the women's division. We got a parking lot fight between Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, one of the main focal points on the show. Very fun to watch since these two guys are normally used to doing this as a tag team against another tag team, but very fun to watch them kind of culminate their feud a little bit. I don't know if they're really trying to write Chuck Taylor off long term. Orange Cassidy mentioned on Dynamite that Chuck Taylor will never wrestle again. Hope that's not true for the guy, but it could just be a way to write him off. They obviously did the shot where it looked like he broke Trent Beretta broke his ankle, and that of course got Orange Cassidy all mad at him, and wish he was already mad at him. But yeah, this is the breakdown of the best friends. Has been a pretty decent little storytelling story that they've been doing over there on Rampage. So again, one of the reasons to watch if you're not really sure what's been going on with Trent Beretta. I know it's been on Dynamite a little bit here and there too, but definitely it would help to follow these other shows outside of the main show of Dynamite. That brings us to AEW Dynamite this week on May 1st, 2024. Big card, I thought, again, another 3-hour block due to the fact that I believe Collision is not on this week due to the NBA playoffs. I think the NHL playoffs are going on as well. So, again, they're trying to, and part of me thinks that AEW possibly is considering doing this 3-hour block maybe after Dynamite or after Collision with Rampage becoming a 3-hour block with one of those shows. I'm not sure exactly if that's going to be the case, but it would make a lot of sense. And I actually think the live format for Rampage works a lot better than the tape format. It just feels like there's a higher energy to it when you do it that way. So we'll just have to wait and see what they do. I know they film Ring of Honor and stuff as well around Dynamite and Collision as well. So I think it would be a lot of fun if they do it. And I think I'm not necessarily a big fan of the going to the 3 hours, but if they're going to do it, at least it feels like AEW has a pretty good beat on keeping it entertaining all the way through the entire 3 hours. There's not a whole lot of slow moments, in my opinion, so that's a plus. Dynamite opened up with Tony Khan live from Jacksonville, talking about how he's not been medically cleared to travel with the crew and everything. So that was obviously really quickly interrupted by the EVPs, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, talking about how they're going to be the ones who are running the show for the foreseeable future. So yeah, then they aired a new Dynamite opening that featured pretty much highlights of the Elite with Jack Perry and Okada and the Young Bucks. So yeah, that was kind of fun. So yeah, they're definitely playing the Tony Khan role here, and they're having a lot of fun with it, as you can tell. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see where this goes. Of course, we got a little bit of a storyline here with the returning Kenny Omega, which we're going to get into in the main event segment. But yeah, this is going to be great to see. It'll be interesting to see where they go with this moving forward. As I kind of hypothesized last week about how we could be getting a bit of a blood and guts feud if Kenny's able to return between now and then. We'll have to wait and see, especially after what happened tonight, which was something to watch for sure. I'll get into that once we get into the main event segment, but good to see the Young Bucks kind of taking over the role here, and it appears like they're having a lot of fun with it. And it kind of gives Tony a bit of a break from being in the the spotlight here, even though he's really not on the show that much, which I give Tony Khan credit for. But some of the fan base and the detractors of AEW talk about how they want Tony Khan to step down a little bit. So maybe this will at least kind of quell some of those criticisms for a little while here. Swerve Strickland once again opened up the show, was basically asking who is going to be his opponent at Double or Nothing. That was when we got the return of Christian Cage right here in Canada, which makes a lot of sense. Christian Cage, the last time we saw him is when he lost the TNT Championship to Adam Copeland. So, yeah, I think as a heel character, Christian Cage has been doing some amazing work. With Nick Wayne and Killswitch and Nick Wayne's mother, obviously a lot of fun to watch those all together. And Christian Cage brought up the fact after they beat down Swerve, he just kind of hits him with a cheap shot here. And of course, the numbers game got the best of Swerve and Prince Nana here. But Christian Cage went on to talk about how he has not forgotten how Swerve Strickland bloodied up Nick Wayne the late last year or so when they had that feud. And Swerve was the heel. So yeah, nice for them to bring that up a little bit of using that as a long-term storytelling element. So glad to see that as well. So this makes sense to have Christian want to get revenge for what he did to his protege. So yeah, and of course, adding the AEW World Championship to it is even better. So I think this will be a fun match for AEW Double or Nothing, and I think it'll be a lot of fun in general because I think they've done a pretty good job so far of building that show. Still a few weeks out, but we've got 4 matches after Dynamite this week. So a good start all the way around. We got Adam Copeland defending his AEW TNT Championship here against one of the 3 members of the House of Black. We didn't know who it was going to be. Obviously, it looks like that Adam Copeland will be running the gamut of the House of Black here. Had a pretty decent match between Buddy Matthews and Edge here. It went a little bit longer than I would have liked. Maybe instead of 20-some minutes, maybe you could have cut it down by 5 minutes or something like that. Went a little longer than I thought it maybe would. There's also a spot in the match where Buddy Matthews and Copeland kind of went for cross bodies on each other, and they hit each other's ribs. And Buddy Matthews started bleeding from his mouth. They were almost playing it up like he might have broke a rib or something, and maybe he was bleeding a little bit internally. It was kind of a scary moment. So hopefully Buddy Matthews is okay. He did continue the match, but he looked to be in a lot of pain. So maybe he just busted something in his mouth or whatnot, and maybe he hit like an elbow or something on the spot. It was just selling. I don't know. But at the end here, obviously Adam Copeland gets the win. So yeah, good to see. Obviously, they're not going to let Copeland lose before the main event against Malachi Black. But the most intriguing part of this whole thing was not so much the match; it was what happened after the match. Adam Copeland has obviously at the pay-per-view, he got the black mist from Malachi Black in his face. So again, I talked about during the Dynasty thoughts that I went over in one of my recaps. Obviously, I mentioned that when you get sprayed by the black mist, that it sometimes starts to take your personality to a darker place, and maybe even for Adam Copeland could be more of like a brood type character. And he started to beat down Buddy Matthews after the match. He was almost not in his right state of mind, and that's when Malachi Black showed up, and he was basically goading Adam Copeland to hit the one-man concerto on Buddy Matthews, and even Buddy Matthews eventually sat up and was like, "Hit me." Bring it on. So it's like the House of Black are trying to coerce Adam Copeland to maybe they're trying to recruit him into the House of Black a little bit. I'm not sure. I think what we're going to get is a more dark, brooding Adam Copeland, possibly facing Malachi Black at Double or Nothing, kind of like he was with the Judgment Day as Edge in WWE before he left over there, and maybe even going back to his brood days as when he was with Gangrel and Christian over there. So we could definitely be getting a darker side of Adam Copeland. He was even asked in the back by Renee Paquette whether or not he was okay, and he kind of shook it off, was like, "Yeah, I'm good." But as the weeks go on here, this could get worse and worse and worse for Adam Copeland. So intriguing storytelling, a little bit taking the Adam Copeland character, the rated R superstar, to another level. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And I think focusing on Malachi Black in a singles run here with Adam Copeland for the TNT Championship is going to be great for him as well. So this should be a great match at the pay-per-view coming up at the end of May on Memorial Day weekend. After this, we got Samoa Joe versus Isaiah Cassidy. This was pretty much a squash match after Samoa Joe lost his AEW World Championship here. Isaiah Cassidy basically gets the bricks beat off of him here, so to speak. So not a whole lot to say here, but Samoa Joe looks to be as dominant as ever. We'll see where they go with Joe in the coming days and weeks here. But good to see him back on the tirade, as he was not happy that the fact that he lost his title. So maybe he'll get thrown into the AEW World Title mix. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But intrigued to see where they take him after this for sure. Then we got Orange Cassidy coming out to the ring talking. He was basically wanted to. He gave us an update on Chuck Taylor. They said that, or he said that he was never going to wrestle again. So next time he saw Trent Beretta, he was going to do something to him. But that's when Trent Beretta showed up on the stage, and of course Orange Cassidy went to attack him. And that's when security kind of broke it up, and Chris Statlander was kind of yelling at Trent Beretta too. I think this is a bit of a ruse between Trent Beretta and Chris Statlander, because I think they're either working together, or Trent Beretta's at least gotten into Chris Statlander's ear like a few weeks ago when he whispered to her. So something's going on there as well. Not to mention, the most intriguing part of this to me was, of course, Don Callis came out and confronted Orange Cassidy, told him to calm down basically, and whispered something into his ear. And Orange Cassidy left with Don Callis. Could they be turning Orange Cassidy heel here, or at least confused, and he may join the Don Callis family? That's an interesting storyline. Never, not one I would have expected to see coming up. Maybe I can see Trent Beretta working for Don Callis, no doubt about it. And maybe that's where they go with it, as Don Callis looks to build out his family a little bit. And maybe Beretta and Chris Statlander join him. I don't know. And maybe Stokely Hathaway. I don't know where all that's going. But this is all intriguing to me. It's at least getting my creative juices flowing a little bit and kind of speculating what could happen here. So I can't wait to see where they take this for sure. The best friends, especially, definitely need a new creative direction. I think they're definitely giving that to them. So I'm intrigued to see where this goes and can't wait. We got Chris Jericho defending his FTW championship against Katsuyori Shibata. This match, I thought, obviously Jericho is playing up this douchey gimmick. He's got this big smile on his face, waving to the crowd like he's Miss America, that sort of thing. And just, raining in the beauty. It's almost like he heard all the boos and all the criticism that he was getting. And he just took that. He's like, fine, I'm just going to run with it. And he's enjoying it. He's just trolling the hell out of you people who don't like him, which, give the man some respect. He's been around for, 30 some years at this point. But this match here with Katsuyori Shibata, I thought was much more fun than it needed to be. There was, the spots with trash cans and trash can lids, and then Jericho at one point pulls out this bag. You think it's kind of like thumbtacks or something. It ended up being hockey pucks because they were in Canada. And of course, Jericho was at a hockey game the other day. And then, of course, this was in Jericho's hometown of Winnipeg. So he didn't get nearly as booed as normal. But of course, the match ended in a way I kind of didn't like the way it ended, because, you had this interference from Big Bill dropping Katsuyori Shibata through a table to set up Jericho to get the win. But at the same time, it does make sense when it comes to the storyline, because Big Bill has been angling to be under the learning tree of Jericho here. So it makes a lot of sense that they did that. But I kind of thought that just the way the match was going well, and they had good chemistry together, I kind of wanted to see a clear-cut winner. But in regards to the storyline, I think it served its purpose well. As I said earlier, we had Claudio Castagnoli against Brian Cage. Castagnoli had a fun match here with Brian Cage, I thought, but Castagnoli gets the win here with the sharpshooter. So again, it appears that they're going to maybe start getting Claudio on a bit of a win streak here after taking some losses as of late. The losses he's been taking are against like Swerve and Will Ospreay and things like that. So I understand that. But again, it's just great to see that they're going to be pushing Claudio in the future. And I think that's definitely a good thing. The BCC in general, all of them should be right up there with the main event talent at all times, in my opinion. We had a match with Serena Deeb versus Mariah May. Obviously, Serena Deeb was doing a good job of working over Mariah May when Tony Storm on the outside threw in the towel at the end of this match. I think Tony Storm throwing in the towel here is obviously going to be kind of, again, furthering the storyline between Mariah May and Tony Storm themselves, uh, possibly leading to a breakup at some point. Once Mariah May kind of gets a little bit of an establishment here, under the coattails of the current champion. But this obviously did set up the fact that we're going to be getting a AEW Women's World Championship match at Double or Nothing. It's now official that Serena Deeb will be challenging Timeless Tony Storm. In a way, I kind of hope that this somehow leads to either Mariah May turning on Tony Storm, or something happening, a little miscommunication between them that could cost Tony Storm the title here, and that's when Tony Storm starts to blame Mariah May, and that could lead to their breakup. But Serena Deeb, in my opinion, as long as she's medically ready to carry this title belt, I would love for Serena Deeb to hold the title, because I think she's absolutely deserving of it, and she's a great professional wrestler, and I think it'll be a fun thing for the women's division, and get us some new matchups as well, as Tony Storm's had a pretty decent run here. So love Tony Storm, love the Timeless character, but I think it may be time for a change at Double or Nothing. Then, of course, all this led up to the main event segment with the return of Kenny Omega. So, yeah, I mean, it was great to see him. He come out, basically talk about his ordeal with diverticulitis. For those of you who don't know, it's basically an intestinal uh, disease that could, really, it could really kill you. And I know Brock Lesnar had it as well, and it forced him to pretty much retire from the UFC. But you know what? Brock Lesnar's been able to go wrestle as well. So if properly taken care of and caught in time, I think it's something that Kenny can obviously come back and wrestle and be perfectly okay. But it's a very scary ordeal, and he could have died. As he mentioned in this promo, he was 24 hours away of from dying if it wasn't taken care of. I do think maybe he. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, I don't know his circumstances, but a part of me kind of felt like he probably embellished just a little bit, especially talking about how he may still like need surgery. Like I think he probably already got it, because he was talking about he may have to be in a colostomy bag for 6 months or the rest of his life and things like that. But obviously he was out here not in a colostomy bag. But again, I'm no doctor. I'm just saying that it just felt like, and not only that, Kenny Omega was taking bumps here in this segment. So if he wasn't at least to some point medically cleared to a degree to take some of these bumps and some of the shots he was taking here, this would have been very irresponsible of AEW. And I just don't think that they were going to do that. So in a way, I think he's probably a little bit further along than he was maybe a little bit letting on in this promo. But good to see him here, no doubt about it. But that, of course, he talked about how he was the only guy who earned a 7-star rating in the Dave Meltzer star system. So that, of course, brought out Kazuchika Okada, who was a member of the New Elite with Jack Perry and the Young Bucks. And who did Kenny Omega have that 7-star match with? That was, of course, Kazuchika Okada in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So they seem to be teasing that we could be getting a rematch of that classic match here in AEW, in an AEW ring, possibly in a few months whenever Kenny Omega is officially cleared. Like I said, he's probably not 100% ready to go just yet, obviously, but he was definitely able to do some bumps here because that led to Jack Perry coming up from behind and attacking Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega, he talked about if he got one more shot to his gut, it could be, that could be it for him. And this all kind of led to Kenny Omega fight back. He gave like a Snapdragon suplex to Jack Perry, and it looked like he was going to get the better of everything. But when Okada kind of swept his leg when he ran against the ropes, and Jack Perry took the chair to Kenny Omega's gut, so he was definitely selling his gut there, and the pain in his stomach. So yeah, they were definitely playing this up as if the New Elite are definitely dastardly heels here, and they're going after the babyface of Kenny Omega, and they were just going to destroy him here, much like they did Tony Khan last week. So it made a lot of sense, and they destroyed him so much. And the Young Bucks, again, like with Tony Khan, come down to the ring and was acting like, "Yo, man, what are you doing?" And then, of course, that's when they grabbed his hands and they gave another EVP, the EVP trigger, because in Kitty's promo he talked about how just like the Young Bucks, he has an ironclad contract to where he, as an EVP, he could, if something were to happen where he needs to become a power figure, an authority figure, as it were, on television, he could do that. So Kitty was going to do that, but the Young Bucks kind of had that off at the pass. So the Young Bucks, appears that there's nobody else to run the show outside of the Young Bucks and their EVP power. So again, this is a whole power struggle within AEW. It's good storytelling, and it adds an element of intrigue of what the Young Bucks are going to do. Who could come in and save the company from the evil dictatorship of the Young Bucks and doing things the way they want to do them. So yeah, this could be a lot of fun. Obviously, with all this stuff going on in the ring, the FTR come down to save Kenny Omega. So again, as I mentioned last week, there's a possibility that you could get Kenny Omega, FTR, and maybe a returning Hangman Adam Page against the Elite at possibly Blood and Guts if Kenny is ready to go by then, and Adam Hangman Page is ready to roll. So we could be getting 4-on-4. You might add a member here and there, make it a 5-on-5. But yeah, that could be where they're going here, depending on how close Kenny is ready to come back and wrestle. But all this is great. And of course, this bled into AEW Rampage a little bit, as Kenny was obviously being put on a stretcher to really sell the effects here. And of course, that's when he got attacked once again by the Young Bucks, talking about how they want to change the world, and they said, "We're sorry." And they dumped him off the stretcher onto concrete. So again, regardless, you really had to feel for Kenny Omega here, even if he was kind of playing up the injury a little bit. He definitely did a great job of getting the sympathy from the crowd. And of course, if you know anything about what he had to go through, everybody was like fearful. This is great. It definitely did a good job of making you concerned for Kenny Omega here. So I really like that intrigue, and the way that the show ended definitely made me want to watch more about where this is going to be going. And when Kenny comes back, he's going to wreak havoc and just get revenge on all these guys. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So I can't wait to see where they go with that. So that was the big angle for AEW this week. But after that, again, like I said, we had a live episode of Rampage. So we're getting into that a little bit as well. Had a really good match between Jay White and Dante Martin on Rampage. Jay White gets the win here. Again, they're doing some stuff to get Jay White over as a singles competitor as well. Everybody wants to complain about how Jay White's being misused. He's holding the Unified Trios Championship here, so they've given relevance to that title. And the Bang Bang Gang is over. And once Juice Robinson can come back from injury as well, I think they're going to be as over as ever. So yeah, but I agree with you. I want to see Jay White get more of a push in a singles run. Uh, but as of right now, you can't really have him taking the title off Swerve or anything. So I can maybe see Jay White maybe going the TNT Championship route at some point against Adam Copeland. That could be a lot of fun. So we'll see what they go with it. But good showing here from Jay White as well. On Rampage, following Dynamite, when Big Bill assisted Chris Jericho to get the win over Katsuyori Shibata, Jericho finally come up to Big Bill and said, "I accept you. I'm going to take you under my wing in the learning tree." So it appears that we're definitely getting a little bit of a team up here with Big Bill and Chris Jericho. As I've mentioned, we'll probably get Ricky Starks leaving for WWE sooner rather than later here. I don't know if Ricky Starks is just injured at this point and he's still got some time on his AEW contract, but it sounds like sooner rather than later he'll end up with Cody Rhodes, his good buddy over there in WWE. So it sounds like we're getting Big Bill moving on from the Ricky Starks tag team here and joining forces with Chris Jericho. And it works for the learning tree gimmick. So, boy, I tell you, the chest on Jericho here, boy, he took some chops from Katsuyori Shibata in this match. So, yeah, so good, interesting to see this. Love the gimmick that they're giving Jericho. Again, Jericho has done a great job over the years of just, constantly, reimagining his role and, evolving, so to speak, into different characters throughout the years. And the learning tree is his latest iteration. So I'm interested to see where he takes it here. And I can't wait to see what they do with it. Sky Blue versus Willow Nightingale for the TBS championship here. But yeah, this is one of those hardcore matches between these ladies. I think they've had these type of matches before, but as always, it's fun to watch for sure. We also got a match with Rocky Romero versus Kyle O'Reilly, but it was pretty much to kind of highlight Kyle O'Reilly a little bit there. I don't know if they're really going to do a whole lot with Rocky Romero, even though he states that he wants to win a championship. So he might get that moment down the line here at some point. But yeah, I mean, I thought the main event for Rampage was a lot of fun. Definitely brutal with the barbed wire and and the tax and all this stuff. You know, great stuff from these two ladies. And the match ended with a sit down power bomb through a table on the outside through barbed wire, and Willow Nightingale retains her championship here as Rampage ended after this long week of AEW. So yes, definitely good showing for AEW this week. I thought that, like I said, they've already set up some matches for AEW Double or Nothing coming up on Memorial Day weekend. We've got Swerve Strickland defending his AEW World Championship against Christian Cage. We've also got Tony Storm against Sarita Deeb for the Women's World Championship. And we've also got the AEW International Champion Roderick Strong versus Will Ospreay. Can't wait to see Will Ospreay come back on my screen, because the more I can watch Will Ospreay wrestle, the happier I am as a fan for sure. So that'll be a fun match between Roderick Strong. Interesting to see how Roderick Strong will match up against Will Ospreay, because I obviously think Will Ospreay is a little bit better in the talent in the in ring department. That's not a knock on Roderick Strong; he's great as well. I just don't know how their two styles are going to mesh together. So I'm intrigued to see how this is going to go, and I can't wait to watch it. Then, of course, we have the TBS Championship. Willow Nightingale will be defending against Mercedes Moné. No Mercedes Moné on this show tonight. They had a video package kind of highlighting the Mercedes Moné segment from last week on Dynamite, but no Mercedes this week on the show. But overall, I think AEW is doing a pretty good job of promoting Double or Nothing and setting up those matches moving forward for that big pay-per-view coming up. One of their bigger shows of the year. And I think it'll mark their 5-year anniversary, if I'm not mistaken, of their first Double or Nothing pay-per-view. So yeah, this will be great. I can't wait to see it. But what do you guys think about AEW this week? Are you guys excited for what AEW is doing? It feels like they're kind of turning a little bit of the corner there when it comes to some of their bad shows they had over the last couple of weeks, including the All In footage and things that they released. But I thought the last few weeks have been pretty solid. So I'm looking forward to see where they go with it. I'm excited for AEW Double or Nothing. But what do you guys think? Comment below. Let me know what you guys think about the show. What do you think about Double or Nothing coming up? And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And until my next week's AEW recap show, take care. God bless.